Cyberpunk 2077 is the most hotly anticipated game of the decade, and with that comes a lot of fans who will do pretty much whatever it takes to get their hands on the game early, even going as far as to bribe some factory workers for early copies. And with that obviously comes a lot of leaked gameplay popping up on the internet. We did a video a few days ago talking about how epic the atmosphere feels in some of that initial leaked footage, but since then so many things have come out, some worries of mine have been quelled and some new ones have popped up. So I wanted to boil it down for you guys and give you every spoiler-free takeaway that I have from these leaks, because quite frankly there's a lot in here that I think you guys are really going to enjoy. But if you haven't seen the leak video we did a few days ago talking about the atmosphere, I highly recommend you go watch that video because it sets the stage for this one to perform on. And that being said, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit that big red subscribe button down below and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any more super high quality Cyberpunk 2077 content. I will obviously be doing my best to keep you guys updated, and of course I want to reiterate everything is spoiler free. So the first thing I wanted to address is population density. If you saw that previous video we put out, population density was one of my main concerns, and that's because in the footage I saw there was like 10 people total. That being said though, I have seen more footage recently that shows a very high population density. So I wanted to say that first and foremost, that there is really high population density, and yes, it's on consoles. I obviously don't know what that's going to scale to on PC, but at the end of the day, that was my main concern for the console port. So I wanted to address that up front because it was the only issue I presented in the last video. That being said, there's a few things that worry me a little bit, but I want to stress here, this is without the day one patch. Any footage that you see is effectively from the beta version of the game. This is the only time in the history of Cyberpunk that anybody will be playing with some of these bugs, and that is just down to the fact that because of the way games work, you have to stop working on the disc edition of the game months ahead of release. So just imagine that CD Projekt Red had to say, okay, the game's ready to ship months ago, and they've been working on the game ever since. They even have delayed the game since it got shipped out because they wanted to make it better for those consoles. And now, unfortunately, those consoles are the only things that are actually leaking footage, which is why you'll see CD Projekt Red being so adamant to take down the leaks, because it's not a proper representation of the game. And having seen a lot of this footage, I can attest that it's not a proper representation of the game. Some of the issues that I'm seeing in the console ports are issues you'd expect of a game that's still being developed, which makes me think that the game was literally still being developed at this point and they had to push it out to try to meet their original deadline, which is why it got delayed. But everything issue related that I've seen is some basic graphical bugs. A few objects weren't there, like the magazine when reloading, a few random gravity issues as well. Somebody got shot and floated up to the roof, and I even saw a video where somebody tried to jump through a window and it teleported him like 400 yards. But I gotta be honest with you guys, the sheer amount of content I've seen on this platform talking about how buggy the game is pretty misleading. But it won't be nearly this buggy for anybody who plays it at release, because, and I need to stress this, the game is not released yet. I also saw one of the romance scenes with our main brain dance specialist Judy, and I don't want to give anything away, but all I'll say, the only tease I'll give you is that Judy has an extra tattoo somewhere. Something else I wanted to say is that the driving actually looks really good from some of the things that I've seen. I'm particularly fond of the motorcycle, and speaking of cars, I did want to say I've seen a few different cars now. I've seen the same car in 2 different playthroughs, and then I've seen 3 or 4 different cars on top of that. I have not seen anybody steal any cars. I have not seen anybody hack one and boost it, so apparently that must be later in the game, or people just somehow have cars in the footage I've seen. I don't know, but I did want to say I have seen multiple paint jobs that seem pretty stylish, and even one that was sparkly gold with a tiger on the side. So even though there isn't car customization built into the game, it looks like you can still get some pretty tricked out rides. And don't worry, yeah, I'll keep you posted on how to find those once the game comes out. And I gotta be honest, the textures in the Badlands, even on the PS4 or PS5, like I said, I couldn't tell exactly which gen it was, but they looked really good. And it's not just the Badlands that looks good on console. I mean, to be honest, everything I saw looked really good. We talked about this in our previous video as far as atmosphere goes and tone, but to be completely candid about it, CD Projekt Red is knocking this out of the park. There are some features I expected to be a little more robust than what I've seen so far, and because I am extra wary of spoilers, I've done the best I can to avoid missions. Obviously that hasn't 100% worked out for me. And another cool thing I noticed while watching this gameplay is that NPCs actually have dynamic lines depending on what you're doing. The coolest example I found of this is that while fighting, some enemies will say lines based on the context of the fight. So for instance, my mans who was playing the leaked version of the game was not really hitting all of his shots, and he was kind of getting destroyed by the NPCs, and at one point one of the goons shoots him, he goes to cover, and then the goon says because yeah, that hurt, didn't it? Little stuff like that is not coded into most games. Most of the times they have a few lines that they'll cycle between maybe while they're fighting, but as far as reactions go, I've never seen a game where an NPC hit a shot and then taunted you. Unless it was a boss fight, and I want to stress this was a random goon. I mean, obviously it was part of like a larger fight, but this was not the main guy who had voice lines. This is like random foot soldier 82. And if random foot soldier 82 has dynamic lines, I can only imagine how many options there really are once you get to talk to the big baddie. And by big baddie, no, I don't mean Judy. Everyone knows that's Meredith. Something else I wanted to say that was a cool takeaway for me, and this is just as a Fallout fan, is that Night City, especially in the crappier areas, really reminds me of a beefed up Diamond City, which is a great thing. Another thing I wanted to say here, and I'm not gonna explain this, so sorry, but I do want to mention it, is that the way you get weapons, or the ways you get weapons, are actually pretty cool in this game. Like, sure, you can loot some off the ground, that's not what I'm talking about though. You'll see when you actually get your hands on it, but it's just a very 2077 way of buying guns. Again, sorry for not clarifying that, but it's just very cool to me, and I think you'll understand what I mean when you get your hands on the game. Another thing I wanted to say is that the radio stations in this game are actually pretty robust. I think you guys are starting to get the gist here. I've seen a fair amount of gameplay, and honestly, I'm just really excited for this game to actually come out so we can all get it in our hands. And if you, as much as I, are just chomping at the bit for more Cyberpunk 2077 information, check the pinned comment for a link to my master Cyberpunk 2077 playlist so you can get your fix. But I wanted to make this video to quell some fears about the quote-unquote tons of bugs that people are reporting. They're on consoles, they're effectively playing the beta version of the game, and it really does feel like it when you watch that footage. I know for a fact that the game I'm seeing gameplay of is not the game that CD Projekt Red wants to put out, and I have no doubt in my mind that a lot of these bugs will be fixed on launch day. And I would even argue that these leaks are a good thing for CD Projekt Red because A, the hype is going up in the community, but B, they can see the bugs that people are experiencing and hopefully get some hot fixes added to that day one patch. And that being said, I wanted to say happy preload day to everybody who gets to preload the game today. Let me know down in the comment section down below if there's a video that you would like to see on Cyberpunk 2077 from yours truly. And I wanted to say thanks again to everybody who subscribed yesterday and the day before. We literally added 12,000 subscribers in the last 2 days. So thank you guys so much for signing up to join the Pineapple channel. And I can't wait to bring you guys the latest and greatest from Cyberpunk 2077. And I'll be back again with a brand new video for you guys. But until then, I'll be in Night City. I hope you are too. Peace.